As always, welcome everyone. We are continuing our short series on this cluster of mental qualities that all co-arise in a wholesome mind moment, in a wholesome mind state. This teaching comes from the Abhidhamma, and there's this whole cluster, and we've talked about many of them. They are faith and mindfulness, and then our conscience, hiri in Pali, and ottappa, which is conscience and concern or conscientiousness, and then uh, balance, non-greed, and non-ill will. And when non-ill will is uh, full and mature, it's metta. And then balance and tranquility. Sorry, let me do something different. Lightness, softness, flexibility, which those are the 10 that we've spoken about. And there's four remaining that I'll talk about today. And those are uh, uprightness and balance, tranquility, and proficiency. And these all come together in a wholesome mind state. And what is very interesting and encouraging when you read the suttas, you realize so often the Buddha speaks about this wholesome mind state in just negating the unwholesome. Talks a lot of times about non-greed, non-ill will, and non-delusion. And in this cluster of wholesome mind states, we have this non-ill will and non-greed. And when greed is not there, craving is not there, and when ill will, aversion is not there, what is left, what is there, what's natural is this wholesome, this beautiful mind, this wholesome cluster. It's like the flavors in a perfect curry. And some, you can add a bit more of this or have a little bit less of that. It's like that. And many of us have experienced this. If you're on retreat and you are clearing out, clearing out the clutter and clearing out the distractions and clearing out the busyness and clearing out the muddle, and things start to settle, what is left is very, very beautiful. I feel like we experienced this even this past weekend. We had a 3-day retreat, and by the end, there was definitely more of these qualities for all of us, more lightness, more flexibility, more openness, more love. Uh, I've given this example before, but it was so evident to me when my father passed away. My father was an alcoholic, and my mother was a rageaholic, and she often claimed it was because of the alcoholism. It certainly was a trigger, but and my father's death was extremely beautiful. He was still drinking quite a bit, but at that point it was just sort of a maintenance. And so there was, I want to believe there was clarity in the mind. It felt like it. And he just died there in the afternoon, sitting in his chair. And we were all there, and everyone knew he was in the dying process. And this was maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And almost like within minutes of him dying, I mean, I'll choke up thinking about it. Within minutes of him dying, it's like my mother's anger went with him. It died too. And it was profound. And it was within that day. Um, the change in her was astronomical. And truly, it was the non-ill will. as soon as there was non-ill will, there was so much that I had never ever seen. My mother was 86, and it was like a new woman, and honestly, it was like a new relationship. It was very dramatic. And to the point where in the family we would talk about like old mom and new mom, because sometimes she would slip and some of the anger would come back when something got, she got impatient or irritated, but it was rare. It was rare enough that mostly it was new mom and occasionally, she was kind of old mom. And I think this is the Buddha's teachings. It's this wholesome mind state, although as we practice, it can feel really laborious, and there are parts that are, but it's wonderful if we also realize it's like water cutting through rock. It takes a lot of persistence and a lot of effort, but there is a naturalness to the process. And the mind, like the water is the mind moving towards the wholesomeness and rubbing away the rock, rubbing away the unwholesome. It seems like the water is less powerful than this powerful, strong rock, but in nature we see it, and it's like that, I think, in our spiritual practice. So these wonderful four qualities left that I'll talk about. The first one is uprightness. And a few of these, three of the four that I'm going to talk about today, I I experience them also in the body. I experience them also physically. And we've talked about how much the mind is the forerunner. But the mind, there's an imprint left in the body. And when we have this uprightness, this mental quality, there also ends up being an uprightness in the body. And you can see it in many, many meditators. There's a beautiful story about wonderful, wonderful pioneer nun for us that are nuns, for all of us, for the world. And her name is Aya Vayama. And she's now passed away in the last maybe 4 or 5 years. And she was initially a student of Ayakema's, and then she was a student of Ajahn Brahms. And she was the first of the four women that were ordained, fully ordained in the Bhikkhuni ordination that happened in Serpentine in Australia in 2009. And that was a powerful break that Ajahn Brahm did, uh, making that step. But there's a story of Aya Vayama. She was a powerful, deep meditator, and she was meditating in Sri Lanka, I think at Nuns Island, and where Ayakema started the monastery. And um, several tourists saw her and thought she was a statue because she's just there, upright and very, very still. And I mean, not all of us are still in our meditation, and uh, we don't want to get up. We want to be upright, not uptight. Definitely. Upright, not uptight. Uh, and when this uprightness is very much married to, best friends, connected with what I talked about last week in terms of us listening to our conscience. And just to really understand in the Buddhist teachings, when we are listening to our conscience, this is wholesome. This is wise and this is wholesome. And so when our conscience speaks to us, this is a positive thing. Often we frame it as like, oh, I didn't do that well enough. I didn't do it right. No, our conscience is just speaking to us, and now the learning happens. What could I have done a little bit better? How could I have prevented that? um, from affecting me in that way. And as soon as that learning's done, we can, if it rises up again in the mind, we can just say, yeah, got you, thank you, you did your job, it's complete, it's finished, and let it go. And this aids and reinforces this uprightness that, yeah, I'm in good relationship with my conscience. And I mean, if our conscience is speaking to us several times a day, this is good. This is positive. Um, and learning is happening. And then we can let go. Don't, I was a classical musician, and my teacher, I was a clarinet player. My teacher always, always was telling me, don't make four mistakes because you make one mistake. And it's true. When you're performing and something doesn't go the way that you were planning or the way that you were hoping for, it's so important to just stay in the moment, it's very much like meditation, stay in the moment, stay in the moment. And don't, because you're not super happy with that one thing, don't now make three more mistakes. And it's very easy to do that, very natural, but not necessary. And if we're in good relationship with our conscience, uh, we can lean into and feel and enjoy and experience this feeling of clean, this feeling of uprightness. In our monastic vows, we have all of these rules, and a bunch of them are very small. And I broke at least one this week. Um, and it's like, oh, when you realize. But it's very beautiful. There's a ceremony every 2 weeks. And the Pali, the best translation of the Pali is this bringing out into the open. And this is the way the Buddha set it up, that we bring out into the open. Oh, I wasn't with my robe at the right time, and I didn't, and I ended up eating this food, and it wasn't clear that it was offered. You just bring it out into the open, and then it's gone. It's done. It's just like this, like airing a room. This is the uprightness. You just, yeah, the air's a little bit. Ooh, it smells a bit funky in here. So you just open the window, uprightness. It's like that. So it's wonderful. It's all built into the system that we don't need to be getting this perfect. We don't need to be nailing it. It's called practice because we're practicing, we're learning. We're sakyas, we're students, we're training. And it's wonderful when you're training, like you go to the bank and it'll go teller in training. Why? So that we're more patient. We understand, oh, they just started, bless their heart. Of course they don't know how to do this transaction. Waiting, gotta go get the manager. But I mean, it sets you up. And so we're the tellers in training. And this can lead to a light, add to the lightness and this feeling of uprightness. The second quality, I'll just say, and again in the suttas, look at my notes so I get the quote right. But in the suttas, many, many times, it talks about this gradual training, teller in gradual training. And and it often talks about that this leaning into this feeling of uprightness. And, maybe our whole psyche, our whole system isn't all cleaned up yet, but we can focus on what has been cleaned. And this is that uprightness. And realize, yeah, we're in this gradual training process. But the Buddha talks about when we reflect like this, when they have this entire spectrum of noble ethics, they realize, that I'm in training and I've cleaned up some things. When they touch into that, they experience a blameless happiness inside of themselves. It's very linked to, it is this curry sauce. So this uprightness segues with this feeling of proficiency that I'll talk about in a few minutes. The second quality is one that I, I actually could have done a whole talk on, and it's this balance. And just to underscore the centrality, the profundity, the crucialness of balance, it is the very first thing the Buddha taught. Before he taught the Four Noble Truths, before he taught the Eightfold Noble Path, he talked about having found this middle way. This is that balance, this middle way. And this is something that this principle of balance, this principle of middle way, is something for me that I've been able to access and touch into so much of my life since becoming a practitioner. For me, it affects my emotions, my moods, my energy level, my choices, um, and very much in meditation. Uh, in fact, um, when there is finally access to deep, deep meditation, that's one of the things that you feel right away is the way that you were out of balance. When you go into deeper meditation, this is one of the things you're really aware of, like, oh, things are just getting way more imbalanced. And it is, I often talk about this spiritual practice is full of these paradoxes, these dichotomies, and this balance plays a role in that. So um, as we're learning the skill of meditation, we want to bring into balance things like effort with ease and find the balance. And it's going to be different um, meditation session to meditation session. And for the most part, because of our conditioning, we all probably need to lean more towards ease, taking the foot off of the efforting. And as much as possible, um, increasing the mindfulness, the presence, the interest, the um, the wonder, the gratitude. The more that we can bring these up and not just be the pushing and the trying and the striving. Try easy. Try less. Taking the foot off the gas. For the most part, across the board, for most of us, is you probably can't go wrong. Um, as the meditation deepens, often, coarser craving and coarser ill will are in quiescence, that they're abated some, and it becomes more apparent the third and the fourth hindrance often. You start to then have to really work with them more. A bit of an agitation or a restlessness versus, a bit of a dullness. And my meditation teacher, Beth Upton, if students are experiencing a dullness, and this is very, very common, when the meditation gets a little bit deeper, everything's getting a little bit more subtle and everything's getting a little bit quieter. And it 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 almost feels a bit like that you're on the verge of going to sleep, because there's not very much happening. Even the breath often disappears. It gets very, very subtle. There's very little happening. And if students are more on the kind of dullness side, Beth encourages them that this is better. way better because there's not a lot of craving. Like I want it to go deeper. I want, and and there's not pushing. And so this is actually it's better for many of us with our conditioning if we're on, coming into balance takes a lot of skill and a lot of trial and error. And so being off balance in that direction is probably a better, a better choice. uh, Better. Another another area where we want to come into balance is, and this isn't like these aren't my ideas. This is all from the Buddha's teachings. Is wisdom and faith. This is another pair that we need to be aware of and be bringing into balance. And you think about balancing. I did this as a kid. I loved it. Balancing a broom, put the broomstick in your hand, and I could keep it up for I don't know 2 seconds, but I did like a challenge as a kid. And but the amazing thing is that just the responsiveness and the sensitivity that needs to be there when we're thinking about balance. So this faith and wisdom in the commentaries, there's a wonderful simile of a giant with just a little being on the giant's shoulder. And the giant is faith. And the little being that's the eyes for the giant is wisdom, because the giant is faith, but the giant is also blind faith. So the faith is this giant, and it's got a lot of power and a lot of strength, but it needs wisdom to guide it for what should I be putting faith in? What can I trust? Um, and this is very broadly speaking, but in many countries where Buddhism has been for centuries and centuries and centuries, and it's deep in the culture, there will tend to be an imbalance towards too much faith. And then now you get a lot of superstition and ritual and just blind, blind, there's not tons of reasoning or questioning. And in our culture where there isn't this deep roots of Buddhism, we're off balance with too much questioning, critical thinking, and not enough faith. So this is an area that it's worth each one of us to come into more balance, try and bring up more faith. And ways you can do that, the most sure way to accentuate and water your faith is to think about all the ways that the Buddhist teaching have already worked in your life, the changes that have already happened. This is a faith builder. Another way to build your faith actually is to be asking questions. This is in the suttas. Get clarification for the things that are holding you back or that you're really dubious about. And sometimes we need to just get a good enough answer. And sometimes there are things that we have not yet experienced. And so Ajahn Tanisro talks about just having a working hypothesis. Just realize, okay, I'll take it on as a working hypothesis. I don't know for sure, but I'm open and I'll consider it. And another way to water your faith is to borrow it. We can borrow faith from people that have had more powerful experiences than we have, that have had deeper access to deeper meditation, that are have had personal experiences of the deeper teachings. And uh, you can do this very consciously. You borrow someone's faith. Can I, you um, get it, you get somehow contact with someone that's farther along on the path, and and start to trust them and trust what they're saying and what they're pointing to, and borrow their faith, lean on it. This is, this is not a weird concept. We have it all the time. Mentorship and internship. Uh, Often we are, all of us, walking in the footsteps of people that are wiser, people that are more experienced, people that know more and can teach us. The third uh, quality that I'm going to talk about today, that is in this cluster of these beautiful mental qualities that are all co-arise with every wholesome mind state, is tranquility, calm. And uh, this is, it's in that curry sauce. It's one of the flavors. And uh, what I would say about it is that it is something that our culture doesn't think it's amazing. Like, our culture is promoting excitement, uh, because when we're trying to have excitement, then we do a lot, we buy a lot, we travel a lot and go here and go there. And calm, if we were all really calm, you can see how it's related. It's really calm is just like calm is, let me finish my sentence. Calm is best friends with contentment. Tranquility is best friends with contentment, just like the uprightness is best friends with our conscience. See, they're all friends, and they're all linked, and they all come to the party together. And so tranquility is best friends with contentment, which is this non-ill will, non-greed, is contentment. Um, so yeah, it's like a curry, right? It starts to get almost hard to tease out the flavors. But it is wonderful if we begin to acquire a taste for this calm. And if you've had experiences in meditation where you realize, oh, like there's a lot of non-craving here. Like, everything's fine. Everything is okay. I'm very content. I feel good. That's that calm. Uh, and you realize, oh, this is very peaceful. And it's very, very nourishing. Very nourishing. A lot of us, probably have had spa days. You spend a lot of money. Why? Because you just want to relax. You want the body to get relaxed and just get feeling good. That's that tranquility, the non-excitement, a calm. And again, it has a physical correlate, a physical manifestation, physical expression, when the body just gets at ease. Yeah, tranquility. The last quality, I really wanted to end with this because it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this incredible cluster of beautiful mental qualities. The last quality is proficiency. And the a doorway to proficiency is to uh, recognize when we're meditating that we know what we're doing. There very often with meditators, there can be am I doing it right? Um, and this feeling of uprightness, this feeling of proficiency. Um, yeah, like the instructions are very clear to bring the attention to the breath coming in and then try and keep the attention there with the breath going out. And to just it's very simple, but to bring that up when we're meditating, like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what the instructions are. And then you can strengthen your faith, each time that you're with your in-breath, each time that you're with your out-breath, this is a wholesome mind state. The mind can only do one thing at a time. The Buddha was so clear about this. That's why there is this wholesome and unwholesome. If the mind is wholesome, that's what it's doing. And if the attention is with the meditation object, it's wholesome. There isn't greed there. There isn't time. The mind can't do two things at once. It can't. Now the mind does move very quickly, and that sometimes confuses us because we realize, even when we're doing something very beautiful, like giving someone a gift, we can feel that there's also some unwholesomeness there. There's a wanting appreciation or wanting acceptance or whatever it is. But the mind is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When the mind is wholesome, it is wholesome completely. And all these beautiful mental qualities are there. And this is one of the things that we're doing when we're meditating. We're trying to um, uh, deepen, deepen that, the water, deepen that groove in the wholesome track and keep the mind on the wholesome track as much as possible. And it's like a toddler learning how to walk. When we sit down and meditate, what we've done is, put the toddler in a very clean, clear room with a flat floor. We haven't taken them out on uh, a boat when the ground is moving. We're setting them up to learn how to walk. That's what's happening when we're meditating. We're giving ourselves the best conditions to and we're giving the mind very clear instructions to um, deepen that groove of of the wholesome. And so then what we're doing when that groove is deeper and deeper and deeper, we're increasing the probability that that's the way the mind will go when things get more active, more complex, more and more probability that the mind will um, do the wholesome, be wholesome. So this proficiency um, and uh, proficiency. It's linked to confidence, and this can be a translation for sada, the Pali word that often gets translated as confidence. Uh, Beth Upton, at the end of most interviews, meditation interviews, will end with, "Are you comfortable? And are you confident? Like, are you clear what you're supposed to be doing? What's happening in your own meditation and what the instructions are?" So this leaning into this proficiency of like, I know what the instructions are, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm seeing when I'm doing it, and I'm seeing the payoff. This is all that leading with proficiency, and it's a very uplifting uh, it's a very uplifting instruction, and following that instruction, you feel this uplift. And again, it's just like putting the focus on what's going right, what's working well, what I know how to do. And at times, if the mind and the attention are sliding off the meditation object a lot, oh, well, I know what to do. I need to make the meditation object more obvious to the mind. So I'll bring in a mantra, or I'll bring in counting, or I'll make the breath more obvious. I'll follow it into the body and follow it out. Again, this leading with proficiency. I know what to do. Um, Problem solving. So the takeaway, the reason I really wanted to talk about this is this whole area of proficiency for us to expand our tool belt, uh, much more than just mindfulness. You can lead with any one of these things. You can lean into any one of these qualities. This beautiful faith, our conscience, non-greed, non-ill will, lightness, softness, flexibility, and then the four today, the uprightness, again, best friends with our conscience, and the balance, the tranquility, and the proficiency. So I'll end there, and if anyone has any questions or comments, very, very welcome.